All right, so we'll get started here. More people trickle in as we come. If you guys need to speak up about anything, ask any questions, feel free. I'm going to go over kind of just some club administration stuff, what the club's been doing this year. Then I'll touch over this age group, 2008s, both teams, kind of how we felt like the season went this year, what it looked like, what we're looking like for next year, what our plans are with the group. And then I wanted to leave some time at the end for parent questions, any inquiries you guys might have, or any feedback you guys would like to share. I'll also throw in at the end, if you guys aren't comfortable sharing stuff publicly or want to express anything, feel free to just give me an email and I can address that later. But yeah, so to start, just kind of wanted to go over stuff that the club's been doing this year. This year we kind of changed our structure a little bit and added these age group coordinators, myself for the boys program, Sam Tweeton for the girls, and Jason for the youth 9v9. And it was just a way to try and provide more support for coaches. One thing that we had noticed is, in a lot of clubs and ours, that some coaches can kind of get put out on their islands and they don't interact with either club leadership or interact with each other as much as we would like, and we wanted to try and get more of that. And so these AGCs were a way to do that. You guys probably noticed me out at some trainings if you were ever out there picking up kids. I tried to get through at least once or twice a month to each of my team's trainings, and that way we can be a little bit more connected with the coaches and also provide a little bit more feedback as well. And it's gone really well this year. I feel like everybody as a whole has felt like, I think the coaches have felt a little bit more supported and a little less lonely. So a couple of things that Bryce, our director of operations, wanted to touch on too, of just things that we've been updating our yearly calendar on the website, and just overall general website updates that have made it easier for parents to gather information. The parent tab on our resources thread on the website has a lot more information on it and is a lot easier to navigate, and just a lot more information on the website for coaches and parents, trying to be a lot more transparent. Improved gear checkout and inventory system, all accessible on our website, which has been a lot of help. Gotten a lot of good feedback from that from parents. Just the ease of access for that kind of stuff. Also just the various forms and things that we've added in all the documents to the website to just be a little bit more user friendly for parents to access any documents that they may need or any forms that they may need to fill out. Just having it all in one place on the website, to try and make that easy. We're switching to Adidas this year. We've bought all new balls and gotten some new coaching gear and switching all of that. So the uniform ordering experience should be a little bit better with Adidas. So that's our plan, and I'm excited to work with them. Things for next year that administrative wise, we're moving to, I'm still the boys. We're getting rid of the AGC term just because we felt like it wasn't as straightforward as some other clubs around the state, or parents may not understand that, and so we're switching to the general term that most clubs use of technical directors. We still have Blake Leamy as our director of coaching, kind of overseeing it all. Bryce Burton, our director of operations, is overseeing all the website stuff, all the Sports Connect stuff. He's kind of the main go-to guy for parent questions with administrative things or anything on our website or anything like that. I'll be the boys technical director, same roles that I was doing. And we have hiring a new coach, Victor Martinez, to run the girls program. And he's also going to be the 9v9, so the youth, sort of U11, U12 age group technical director as well. So similar role to the AGCs that we're looking for, of just having more time out on the field with the coaches and with the kids to interact, but also being a an in between for parents to bring inquiries to, or any questions you might have, so we can kind of take some pressure off of Blake and Bryce and open them up to work, do work that they're doing, and not having to deal with parent questions and things that takes up their time. And so yeah, it'll just be, we're kind of downsizing a little bit with me and Victor. And a couple other things that we were doing just to kind of go over where we felt like, just overall club sense before we get into our age group, of just our overall club as a whole did so much better this year, just in wins and losses. Our goal differential was outstanding. I think last year we were at like -200 or something when we looked at the club as a whole. And this year we were in the positive. I didn't add up everything yet because I was waiting to do that until after all the tournaments. But last I added that up a little bit before the season ended, we were at over twice as many wins as losses. And so I'm ecstatic about that. And I can't thank the coaches enough for what a great job they did just overall in general, raising the level. And I think we got teams in a little bit better leagues and better positioned for success and growth and development. So now we'll get into kind of briefly go over what these 08s did this year. So I'll start with the academy. We played in Division 1 and got second. They were 8-1-1, which was great. 27 goals for and 11 against, which plus 16 goal differential is fantastic, and almost won one league there at the end. Tied that last game. But last year they played Premier Silver, and were 2-2-6 and had a -7 goal differential. And feel like definitely after this year it was a good way to step back, but then to improve, and you get to work on things. When you're losing so many games and you're under so much pressure, it's hard to actually work on things sometimes because you're just dealing with defensive things all the time. And so sometimes taking that step back to work on other things and grow in those ways is a great way to develop. And I think this next year, pop them right back up into Premier Silver will be our path for them. The white team played in Division 3 and finished 7-3, 26 goals for, 10 against, so also a +16 goal differential, which was fantastic. Last year they were Division 2 and went 0-10, only scored 4 goals and had 30 against. So we definitely put them in the better league, in the right league, and even possibly thinking about moving up, depending on what the situation looks like moving forward, if getting any new players or what we're looking at tryouts. But overall 15-4-1 record within the age group is just fantastic, and so I love that. Couple different notes that I had talking with Ernesto, and just my overall observations. I know training, we had some inconsistent attendance this year, not only at trainings but at the games, and so that's a little bit of a struggle and a little bit of a concern. It's hard to develop, hard to progress when we're not getting everybody showing up at training. Now we don't expect it. We encourage other kids to play other sports. We understand that that's kind of the theme of the era of kids are playing lots of different sports, and they're branching out and doing lots of different things. And I want to encourage that as well. But when you are missing things, it's important to communicate. And as long as we're communicating all with each other, that makes it a whole lot easier to deal with and to manage. But if we're just have no idea who's going to show up when, and it just makes it difficult to plan for practices, plan for games, and also get a consistent message throughout the year with the training, just because we're having to go back over and work on things that kids missed and things. So that's an issue we'll want to address moving forward. The numbers were pretty light on the white team at times. So one thing we may consider, we had with the 09 whites as well. We didn't have enough to even have a full roster, but we played anyways and just relied on subs from younger teams to come and play in the games. And so instead of having 4 teams between the 09s and the 08s, we may look at combining the 09 white and the 08 white team, just if that's how the numbers work out. Because we'd rather have some strong rosters than go too far in the other direction and not have enough and be constantly kind of scrambling for numbers to even fill for games. So that may be an option. Still hoping we can get some more coming to tryouts. We did have a lot more show up at tryouts this last year. And so if we continue that trend, we may not have to worry about that, but that may be an option too moving forward.
Hey, Chris, can I ask you a quick question?
Of course.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry, it's hard to talk to a room full of Zoom nothings. I appreciate you're doing this. Thank you so much.
Yes.
A couple of years ago, the 09s and the 08s were combined with white, and I think Steve Hunter might have been the coach of it back in the day. And it would be interesting to hear his perspective on that before you proceed forward with that plan. So if you didn't have that historical reference, I might encourage you to look back at that.
So I was aware of that earlier this year when we started. The age group or the age that they did that at, I think plays a factor into it now that they're in high school. They're all playing with different ages on their high school teams anyways. So it's a little less of a factor, at U12, U13, it is a little bit different.
No, that's a solid point. I understand that point. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I hear you, and that we're definitely aware of that, and we'll take that into account as we're making those decisions.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. So coaching slate, I wanted to put out there. So we're having these meetings with each age group, and getting feedback from parents. Once we get all that information, we'll be able to announce our coaches for next year. We didn't want to do it right now before we got all this info, just in case, things popped up that we were unaware of, or, certain groups unhappy with certain coaches. And so we wanted to gather as much information as we can before we really set the coaching slate in. We've been talking a lot, the directors, and we have a rough draft, and we kind of know where we want people, but we wanted to make sure we got information from parents first as well, before we actually set anything in stone or move forward that way. So I already talked about kind of what leagues we may want to go in. Thinking that the academy can move up into Premier Silver, no problem. The whites D3 seem to work pretty good, but I think always challenging that is great. 26 goals for, only 10 against. I could see them getting hungry for a little bit more of a challenge. So I could see them moving up into the D2 too if we wanted. But that's something we can talk to the coach about, and that's something we can always make after summer too, as we do a summer tournament and we go. We'll have a better idea about the level and the progression of the team as well. So moving into that, the next thing, potential tournaments I want to talk about. All this stuff's kind of on our yearly calendar that's on the parent tab on our website, but we're transitioning for the younger teams, Mount Hood. For the older high schoolers, we're going to Clash at the Border, but we also wanted to throw out there for mostly the Navy teams, but I also don't want to exclude any white teams that want to travel. Most don't, because the level of competition traveling is higher, especially on these other ones. But there's a tournament up in Seattle, Crossfire, that's a really good tournament. Has over 600 teams that come to it in mid-July. But it's a little bit more of a travel tournament. But we all wanted to throw that out there just in case teams were interested in going to a summer tournament. If you want to do both, that's great. But we just wanted to add that extra option in because we felt like our summers were getting a little too stagnant with just going to Portland, and a lot of teams, especially the Navy teams, are looking for a little bit more. And so we wanted to try and help accommodate for that. The winter, we have our Alliance Showcase in Portland. That's early December. We do right after tryouts. Mostly that's a kind of college showcase, mostly for the Navy teams. And then we have Pac Northwest and in Seattle in January. And we were also looking at the Mayor's Cup in Las Vegas in February. So either or, we've been in talks about maybe alternating. We've been doing Pac Northwest every winter for the last few years. We've been talking about maybe alternating between Pac Northwest and Mayor's Cup. Mayor's Cup's a little bit more expensive because we're adding plane tickets into the fees. The driving tournaments are usually going to be around $500 to $550. Just dealing with hotels and travel and paying for coaches and chaperones, hotel rooms and food and all that stuff. The flying tournaments are usually going to be around $800 or above. But we just wanted to give that option just in case teams are looking for that. That was
Hey,
kind
Chris,
of, yeah.
Can you, somebody has their hand up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Chris, this is Alan Chang. So, I appreciate the kind of the options and interest in doing, one or more, or maybe multiple tournaments in the summer. One of the pieces of feedback, and I'm going to have children in multiple age groups, is that it just seems like if we start practice in June, we're never ready. Doesn't feel like we're ever ready, especially when you have a new group of players that may not have played collectively before, and then maybe I'm speaking more to the white teams. In the past few summers, it just seems like the mix of players just being new to each other and starting, only having a few weeks, a handful of practices before has been really tough to then go and play a tournament and feel like you're cohesive enough. And is there a thought about starting practices earlier or something like that, just so that it feels like the team knows each other?
Yeah. No, I get that. And you're gonna get that with summer tournaments, no matter what. We do have a updated sort of schedule from what we did last year. I agree. I think last year, and that was the feedback we got to kind of echo exactly what you said of, we took that month off, and it made it hard because we did it right after tryouts. And so I think we were trying to, especially with the high schoolers, train right after May and keep training, and they train till June. We'll go to Clash at the Border or a different tournament for those that want a different one, and then we'll release those high schoolers to their high school teams, because most high school teams are starting to train in July anyways. And we've found attendance kind of drops off just a ton once the high schoolers start training.
Yeah. With
the younger age groups, we're doing that same month off, but then we're, instead of going to I can't remember the name, whatever we went to last year up in Portland, but it was at the end of June or like mid-July. And now we picked Mount Hood and Bend for those younger teams. That's in August. And so we've got that sort of month and a half of training before we actually go and do that.
Okay. Sounds like
And
a
so
better plan. Definitely.
To alleviate that problem. And I 100% agree with you. It was, I heard a lot of feedback about being a little difficult. And, you know, I kind of treat summer tournaments as the fun part of soccer, I'm not getting too into my boys about, you know, the tactics that we've only worked on for a few weeks or something. It's more about, it shows you things you need to work on for the fall season or the spring season, whatever one we're doing, or winter season for high schoolers for this age group. So yeah, I'm hoping we'll do that without taking that break off in May for the high schoolers for this age group, and we'll train through June and go to the tournament and then kind of release them to their high school teams.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you know, we were trying to keep these to about 30 minutes. So I want to open up any other questions or anything that anybody might want to ask. If not, or if you don't want to feel like speaking up, please feel free to email me, and that way I can log it into our discussions and get your feedback in and make sure it's counted, and then I can respond to you that way. But if anybody has any questions, please feel free to speak up.
Hi, Chris.
Hi. Go ahead.
This is Cliff. I had a question about the tryout format coming up. Last fall, it consisted of basically just scrimmages. And with all the different skill levels of the different players, it kind of seemed to some of the players to be kind of a free-for-all where everybody was just trying to show off their own individual dribbling skills, and it just wasn't a format that seemed to work for everybody in terms of being able to showcase the different kinds of skills, strategy, teamwork, spacing, etc. So I'm wondering what the tryout format may look like this year.
It'll probably be very similar. You know, I've been running tryouts for a long time. There's a lot of times you'll start with some smaller 4v4 games or things, but you can see kids that maybe excel at the little smaller field, smaller number games, but then when they get thrown on the bigger field, they get a little lost. And so it may not be, like you said, an accurate representation. We really feel like those scrimmages are the best way to see how a kid's going to play in the games. You know, and we talk about encouraging kids to show their skills. You gotta stand out. That's kind of a way tryouts go. If you don't stand out, it's hard. It can be hard to be seen sometimes. Now, standing out can happen in many ways. It could be the dribbling thing, like you mentioned. But you know, we've got experienced enough coaches to understand if it's excessive and it's not the right decisions, right? We're also looking at decision making, and you know, one of my favorite players on my 07 team I coach, he's not a dribbler, he's not doing that, but he's super smart and he just plays and passes and gives it and you know, gets the ball and gives it, but he never gives it away type of thing. And so there's lots of ways to analyze the scrimmages, and to get, I think, an accurate representation of what the kids are. The one drawback I could see is, you know, if you're doing 11v11 and one ball on there, some kids could just not get the opportunities as much because they don't see the ball because they're playing outside back and the ball never comes to their side in the 15 minutes that they had. And so it does limit their opportunities. And we try and be aware of those when we're making our notes and saying, look, okay, yeah, this kid, I don't have many notes on him. He didn't, you know, he wasn't very involved. So let's put him in a spot where where he's forced to be involved and we can really see and evaluate. So we try and be aware of those type of situations. But as of now, it'll probably be pretty similar where we'll start with the warm up, maybe do some small sided games, but it will majority, especially the second, third days of the tryouts will be, mainly larger games.
I had a question about looking to next year. Any efforts to try to get some fields in Corvallis for practices so that it's not just all in Albany?
All the time. Yeah, that is a constant battle that we've been fighting for the last few years. You know, we have the use of Crystal Lake, but doesn't open up until it's too late. You know, it just opened up luckily April 1st. But the high schools just kind of shut us out, especially in the times when we most need it. And that's just has been the theme. And there's just not many turf fields. We have the two high schools, and they use them for track. They don't want to share. They've got, you know, we share with other sports. Like I mentioned, kids are doing other stuff, just track and lacrosse, and baseball is now on the turf fields, training. And so there's just not a whole lot of options. Yeah, it's just kind of a lack of options.
And why are the Albany, or why is like South Albany different? Why are you able to get time there? Is it just have individual schools?
Different athletic directors that are in control of it. Different people running, making those decisions. You know, we did lose South Albany as well once track started up. You know, we have this relationship with the Y that, you know, gives us those fields, but yeah, that's the lack of fields in Corvallis has been a problem for a long time now. When I was growing up here and playing, there weren't any turf fields, and so it was all grass, and we just kind of did the parks at Village Green. I remember training at, but those just aren't options anymore. And you know, kids want to train on turf. Our grass gets too muddy in the winter, and that's when we need fields for these high school teams. When we start in, you know, December and January and February, and we're trying to train for our seasons, those are the times when we need the fields the most, and we just don't get them. Now January's been nice. We had Crescent Valley, and so we got to share that field and have that for January. But yeah, we lost that in February. So there's been talks. We've been, you know, the club just as in general has been trying to figure out fields and help. There's been talks with like Ashbrook and trying to be a partner with them and to turf their grass field and try and help there and kind of create a similar partnership of what we've done with the Y. And just talks in to develop another field, but turf fields are expensive and there's just not a lot of fundraising for it, not for a lack of effort. And it's been talked about and kind of kicked around and tried, but just the options seem very, very limited, unfortunately.
Thanks. Yeah, I understand it needs to be a turf field, obviously. I just thought that there might be some availability in the winter time when the schools are maybe not needing them, but like
Yeah,
you
I mean,
said,
like we did CV in January or in December and January. CHS kind of we've used them in the past, but they kind of just shut down and decided they didn't want that relationship anymore this year at least. And that's just, you know, they're not our field, so we're not in charge of them. We're kind of at the mercy of the administrators there within the school district.
Hey, Chris, can I ask a different question, not about facilities? You said that you're trying to collect feedback from folks. Was that the general survey that you were doing that, or is it this environment? Like,
Both. We're sending out the general survey and to get feedback, but also, you know, I wanted to give parents an opportunity to speak as well here.
okay, no, that's great. I just was hoping I hadn't missed a general survey.
No, we haven't sent that out yet. I think we were going to do that after we concluded all these meetings as well.
Okay. Thank you so much. I see we have just minutes left, so thank you.
Yeah, of course.
This is Alan Chang again. I have another follow-on question. Actually, I have a couple questions. One, I guess one piece of feedback I'd like to give is, and then you already mentioned it, but you know, it has been frustrating on the 08 white team, you know, to hear that we have a full roster, but yet again, it's really uncertain of who's actually going to show up. You know, I don't know if there's, you know, we're rethinking a strategy to kind of get more commitment. Obviously, you know, again, my son does the same thing, right? We know there's some challenges, but in terms of sometimes some conflicts, but you know, I guess we kind of recognize the fact that, you know, we are paying into this program, so you know, you can't always just make this the last priority, in my opinion.
Yep.
And that's what it feels like. Now, I don't know everyone's circumstances. I don't have any right to know, but it was kind of disheartening to hear like, oh, we have a roster of 20, but like 10 show up, right? We